uni can actually be a lonely place. You know? You lock your door, nobody will know. You know, we know suicides happen at uni. It's not something that's not new,
especially amongst men as well.
Exactly. So uni for me wasn't a lonely place, thankfully, because the coach instilled a level of family that took us down, took us throughout outside of uni. In fact, I still keep in touch with the likes of Adam Lillis, you know, Coach Ben, Adrian Ben, and so on. So for me, uni was muddy.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of X's and O's podcast. It's myself, Mr. Selenke. We've got the Bronze Bomb in the building. We've got our special guest coach, Andy.
What's up, guys?
What's up? And we've got your voice of reason, G Money.
What's going on, people?
Cool beans. So, gonna pose a question to you guys. I know we've touched on Uniball in the past, but now we've got someone that's been in the Uniball game for 10 plus years. I just want to understand what your Uniball experiences were, more specifically with regards to coaching.
Okay, cool. So I went to uni at Brighton, some of you probably know now. Between the years of 2010 to 2014, I did a placement in between that, so I missed 1 year. I think I had 3 different head coaches in that time. Yeah, actually, that's right. 3 different head coaches in that time, so I guess it was 1 per year. Obviously, Uniball coaches move about for different reasons. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, this is both like the coaches that I had, the experience, the relationships, how good I thought they were as a whole. I'd probably give it a 6, and that's not a reflection on any of the coaches in particular. Some coaches I got on more. I didn't not get on with any of my coaches, but some of them I had better rapport with. Some of them got the best out of me. Some of them I didn't quite like, but I'd say a 6. But don't get me wrong, my uni experience was sick. I mean, in my last year, we went all the way to the quarterfinals. I think we set the record in Brighton history for the best number of wins. I think we went 8-0, then went undefeated, got to the quarterfinals, and then lost to Imperial Mortals, I believe. But again, the record still stands. So for me, I was alright, man.
What about head coaching? From a head coaching perspective, I know you had 3 different ones, but was there one that stood out for you?
Yeah, and his name is really, I can't remember. It's doing me because I want to mention his name, but I can't remember his name. I want to say it's not. It might be Neil actually. Neil, you might even remember, Coach. Is it Neil or James? James Ormond. James Ormond. I'm not sure if you remember him.
Yeah, I don't.
I think he was my last year. So that was 2013 to 14 when we went 8-0 in regular season, and then got to the quarters and then lost. But yeah, he built a solid team, and I'll never forget that season because our training camp was insane. You're in Brighton, so you're by the sea, so it's cold, it's raining all the time. Our training camp, no word of a lie, was in hailstones. I think I said it before, like all the guys that I used to play with in that year, like Matt Kinge, Giles, Tebow, Brad, all those guys will tell you that training camp. I remember getting in my car driving home, and my car seat was just drenched. Like I was ill after that. But that season is the season where we made the records, isn't it? So
it was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it.
Coaching was, my coach was John T. Newman. I don't know if you know about him. He's just drill sergeant.
Mad.
But one of the nicest guys you meet. Funny enough, he was the shortest person on the team, but he had so much control and power. You know, he would just walk into the room and you know, just assume, you know, he would just control the room basically. Obviously, I'm starting as a rookie, and I'm seeing this guy thinking,
who's this guy?
What's he really going? So I mean, coming from a basketball kind of, you know, playing career,
so similar to Coach.
Come on, I see this small guy, but this guy, I mean, changed my life. I mean,
wow.
More especially, he was able to release some accountability onto the veteran players.
Okay.
So on the pitch, we had loads of coaches.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had the likes of Adam Lillis. Adrian Campari, Adrian Ben. We had other veterans as well who would be almost display his philosophy on the pitch. So you constantly, you know, your mind was filled with football constantly. You know, you couldn't take a play off. And I'm coming from not understanding the game to being a really good player within a year. And I used to play offensive line, and that O line was probably, I learned so much playing in uni that it became life changing. Not only just playing, but developing as a man, obviously you go to uni, there's loads of distractions.
Yeah.
And you're coming out from I came from a restrictive household where you had to be home by 4 p.m. 6 o'clock you had to be home, and you're coming out to all this freedom, all this distractions, freshers fair, girls. You're that age where girls are, loads of stuff. You know?
Man.
So he really enabled us to keep our heads screwed on. You never felt like you didn't have a family. I think. And he emphasized on family and being part of something, because uni can be a lonely place, Uni can actually be a lonely place. You lock your door, nobody will know. We know suicides happen at uni. It's not something that's not new,
especially amongst men as well.
Exactly. So uni for me wasn't a lonely place, thankfully, because the coach instilled a level of family that took us down, took us throughout outside of uni. In fact, I still keep in touch with the likes of Adam Linnis, Coach Ben, Adrian Ben, and so on. So for me, uni was muddy, but
that's a good way to.
But I'm lucky to have had a good coach in Jonty Newman. So
I just want to pick up on that because I had some really, really good coaches as well up in Bradford, and the family thing you mentioned, and also like building you as a man. So there's one thing I've taken from my university coaches that I try and instill in the young guys that are coaches. That sometimes, you're there to be a coach, but sometimes you don't know what these kids are going through at home. So sometimes you're there to be a mentor, even though someone hasn't asked you to be a mentor. You're there to be someone that they look up to, even though they haven't asked you. And for me, more than anything, especially when I coach at university level, sometimes I'm tough on them in regards to punctuality and just doing some of the little things right. But that's not because I'm being mean or I'm being an arse for no reason, but you're sometimes not sometimes, for me personally, you're there to make sure that these guys, especially after university, go on to become really good men and women in their personal and professional careers. And that's something that was instilled in me, like when I was in university. They'd grind me like, why are you late? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? And there was one time I was like, Coach, man, why are you so tough on me and not on anyone else? It's like, it's not that I'm tough on you, just because like outside of this sport, I want you to be the best person that you can be. And some of the life skills that you're going to learn, or some of the skills that you're going to learn in American football, are going to be skills that you can take on to use in life. So
I feel like that's a good point as well. Like what are we looking for in a coach? Are we looking for like good X's and O's? Are we looking for good, but is it is it, there's that phrase, isn't there? X's and O's or Jimmy's and Joe's. Like, is it people or is it scheme?
Yes.
Like, it's all changing as well. It's changed massively since the time I've been involved. When I came in, like, they say that there's 3 styles of coaching. There's collaborative, there's command style, or there's submissive, right? And what I was finding was all the old school generation from like pre sort of 2009, 2008 were all command style coaches, right? That was in across the board. But I consider myself a collaborative coach, right? Because I will try and work with the guys to understand like their needs as well. Like not just, on the football field, but like what is going on with you. And picking up on what you said, there's a lot going on with uni students, man. There really is. Like, and in today's world, there's a lot of like mental health stuff going on as well. So you've got to be in tune with that and know what's going on. I've spent a good amount of my time like working on that side of it and making sure that us as a staff, like whatever staff I'm on, understand that as well, because that's a big thing. But I guess like flipping the question around, like what did you guys look for in a coach?
That's a good one. For me, I wasn't looking for anything because I didn't join the sport expecting to gain anything. So for me, it was a massive learning curve because originally a soccer guy, playing soccer at a very high level. And soccer, I guess going to your coaching style is very submissive. Like, do that. If you do it, you do it. If you don't, you're not playing, sort of thing. Whereas when I joined American football, it was a case of, I want you to do this, I need you to do this, and this is why I need you to do this, and this is my expectation of you. But I just haven't got an expectation of you. I want you to be able to hold me accountable for the way I coach you as well. So I didn't really go into American football thinking this is what I want from a coach, but it was good to know that I'm in a sport whereby they want me to do something, but at the same time,
you're expecting something from
in return as well. So
the technical aspect of our sport is greater than like
Yeah.
a lot of sports. We have to remember that as well.
Yeah.
And I think part of the issue that we have, or what I try and work on, is how to break that down into like digestible pieces. Because if you just throw a whole playbook at a guy, you know, they're gonna just you're gonna lose them straight away. So
slap another degree at you.
Yeah, exactly. And no one's got time for that when you're at uni. So you have to break it down into chunks, break it down into installs, you know, like, and make sure that the people are bought into that as well. It's not for everyone. To be honest.
No, you're right. Yeah, I think just to continue that question, I don't almost like what Solanke said. I don't know if I was looking for something in particular, but I'm one of them guys, and I've said it so many times before in other episodes, where emotional intelligence is really important.
Yeah, big time.
In particular, for people at uni, like they've got so much things going on, so many things going on. Apart, you know, they got their degrees to cope with, they got the studying time, they might have family issues and whatnot. And I'm personally one of them guys who, like, coaches who are very like aggressive, depending on the manner, doesn't really work well with too much with me. And that's just how I tend to work. And like all if I can remember all the head coaches that I've had, through Martin Harrison, who's now about the Edinburgh Wolves. I don't believe James Omrand is coaching at the minute, but he was great as well. Coach Denny, who I believe was my head coach and then left. Did he?
Yeah, Chris Denny's just stepped down from so Brighton, but he was there for a while. Yeah,
so a lot of these guys are really, really, really personable. Like I have flashbacks of them, like just having conversations on the sideline, not even about football. Yeah, just like general well-being, like what's going on with you, and like they took an interest into me. Like, and I'm not saying I want every coach to like ask me how my day went, but I think you just need to be mindful. Like you said, we don't know what people are going through. So it's, I mean, I don't have a problem with coaches like you almost said, like riding you because they know what you can do or they want the best from you. But I think just having a little bit of emotional intelligence goes a long, long way. Also, another thing to flip around is like, if it's like I'm the head coach, right, and I've got 45 guys, let's say, on the roster, right, I'm going to know every one of those guys to a level, but I'm going to know certain guys more than others. When I first started playing, I remember messaging my head coach and like at the Exiles and asking him tons of questions and giving him paragraphs of information, and he'd just write back, yeah, no worries. And I was like, wow, like that's really rude. But then as a coach myself now, I'm like, I understand that. I ain't got time to write paragraph and paragraph for every single player. I'll see you in the classroom or I'll see you on field and we'll talk. But like that side of it is like, I totally get it, because I have to be that person to 45 individuals, you know. So I think players should bear that in mind as well when they're sort of, you know, wanting that much time from a coach as well. That's why you should have good coordinators and good positional coaches. Extremely important. If you're lucky enough, have assistants as well.
So what's like the nitty gritty of being like a head coach for a uni? Because I never actually knew what happens at the back office, you know, backroom staff, politics. You know, what,
I mean,
tell us about.
There's politics in everything, in like, you know, in workforces or like in life. I think the best thing that I could say with that is get the people around you that believe in the same things that you believe in, and kind of filter out the ones that don't. And it's also a personality thing, going back to what you were saying. Like if you want loads of command style coaches, if you've got like a coaching staff of 10 and 9 of them are command style, you know, that's not going to work, because they're all going to be yelling over each other. So you have to run that fine line of like each individual's personality versus each individual's like level of coaching ability. So that's going to be like quite a big thing, you know. But yeah, there isn't too much. Like it's way more mundane than you'd realize. dealing with like, you know, athletic unions, student unions, it can be a job in itself, you know. It really can. But particularly with like making requests like for kit and stuff, and how does that what's the well, different, don't forget that different unis are structured differently. Like so at Surrey we have an athletic union that is connected to a sports centre, and the student union is bridged to that, basically. So I am employed by Surrey Sports Park as an external coach.
I see.
Which is a really good setup.
Very
That's
good.
rare
Very
as well.
good.
That's not.
I was gonna
not
say.
a lot of coaches that have that.
Not a
sort
lot of coaches have that setup, and I'm like super lucky to be in that position again. But it's like that also helps because they understand as Team Surrey we have this budget, and that will get spent on all of these programs.
Yeah.
One of them being American football.
Yeah.
And I feel that I've helped them understand what goes into American football.
Yeah.
If you think of a lot of other sports, like netball has one coach.
Yes.
And that's a previous player that used to play on the
That's
team
right.
3 years ago.
That's
and that's it. That's their setup.
Yeah.
Ours is 10 coaches, equipment. We're the second highest costing sport at the university after rowing because of equipment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So like you got to think about all of that stuff. Like, you know, it's, and then what is your objective? I've been going through this a lot recently. Participation or performance. Like, are you a performance team? If you're a performance team, then you're practicing 3 times a week. You're in the gym 3 times a week. And that will get you to that performance level. If you're a participation team, you're training 1 or 2 times a week and you're not really putting an emphasis on the guys to do much outside of that.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of teams fall in between the two. And some teams, as we know, are perennially like performance teams. Like I don't need to name them, but all the ones that are in the Prem right now, like they have. But also look at their budgets. I'm really interested in that side of it as well because they have huge budgets for this stuff, and also they have the facilities and they have the time and the training. So you know,
I'm gonna put you on the ropes here.
Yeah, man.
Scholars.
Ooh, I like this.
What's your kind of view on scholarships? Because I know that the players have in the past raised concerns about it. But what's the kind of the ins and outs in terms of scholarships, the packages, and is all that glitters gold? Really?
Yeah, that's a good question. Man. That is a good question. I think that scholarships is a weird one, first of all, because you've got to define what you're talking about with a scholarship. Because firstly, there is internal, like GB, internal athletic scholarship.
Okay.
So there's guys that can play at the highest level at GB, and then they'll get on to a university team as a scholar, right? Okay. But then what you're really talking about is the guys from America, from Canada, from Europe that are coming over purely funded to be on the team. And then that turns into an arms race. That turns into, like, you know, if certain teams have tons of scholarships, like players, then obviously they're gonna be better because those guys have played for X amount of time. What does that kind of look like? Like who is actually doing that? There are a few unis out there that are doing that right now. But then also another bit that people are maybe not picking up on is, what if guys just want to come there without the scholarship, but the fees are much more like reduced. Like, so we had in 2015, 2016, we had a couple of Canadian students, and they were there because they could get their master's degree for like $5,000 in Canada. That's like, you know, $80,000 or whatever it is, whatever the difference is. So they were like, that's a great degree to come over and do that. What I'm surprised about is that more people are not contacting these people and recruiting with the carrot of not being like, we'll pay for your education, but your education is way cheaper. So, and what you'll get is you'll find that those guys will come over and do that. And I know there's a couple of teams out there that did that last season and boosted up their roster for that position. But also you've got to think of, are we getting to a stage where university American football is going to get better because of the grassroots stuff that we're working on now? In 6 years, like 8 years, what's the landscape going to look like?
That's true.
Are we going to have these 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds that we run in youth cadet programs literally picking the university that they want to go to based on
I think we're already seeing it.
I agree.
I think we're seeing students finishing college and they're like, Okay, I played GB under 19s. I've played for my local team. What's the best universities for American football at the moment? And we're literally seeing, for example, I know maybe 10, 15 kids that are saying, I want to go to Birmingham Lions because I know that they are very good at American football. I want to go to UB because I know if I've played GB under 19s, there's a chance that I might get a scholarship. But I guess my question following all of that is, are universities stunting the growth of homegrown talent and grassroots football by continuously looking for guys from abroad, i.e. the US or Europe or Canada, and saying, yeah, let's get these guys in, let's get a ring quickly, rather than, because I think in the UK we struggle for quarterbacks because the first thing that a lot of universities are looking for is we need a QB. We need a QB. Okay, there's an American that wants to come over. Let's throw all the money at him to make sure that his degree is covered and we'll get a QB in, but rather than developing guys that we know are here.
Yeah, well,
I want Coach to answer, but I think it depends on what you said earlier, Coach. Depends on what, if the uni is looking to be a participant club or performance club.
And if it's, let's assume that it's performance just because it's an easier discussion. Like, flip it around again and go back to something that I picked up on that you said. Coaches on the field. Those players, those two Canadians that I had, and also an American that I coached when I was at Greenwich, actually became coaches on field because they upped, like this. The one player that I coached at Greenwich, he made that whole defense better because he was putting in different things that like even the coaching staff weren't seeing because his football IQ was very high. So I'm not like for it and I'm not against it. I'm just like, it's got to be a good thing all round because if you've got guys coming over, they're bringing their knowledge as well. So they're going to improve your team, not just from their play, but from being in the classroom or from being out on field. So I don't think we're at the stage where we're going to see like rosters completely full of Americans or completely full of Canadians or whatever. But if it ever did get to that stage, then I guess there's an argument like there is in Europe for capping it and saying like you can only have a maximum of like 6 people. But don't forget as well that institutions are commercial entities and it's money. So
it's a tricky question, isn't it?
And it's also whether you value Bucks points and trophies.
Oh yeah,
because you know, if you're going after Bucks points and you're trying to win it all, you know, and that means everything to you, then of course you're going to look at that scholarship budget and say we can stretch to this.
Do Bucks points translate into anything financially for the universities or for the sports clubs, or is it just,
as far as I'm aware, there's no direct correlation. But again, going back to something that George was saying, if you have a guy who wants to do a business degree and he can go to 3 different universities, if he's gonna choose the champions, like because he's gonna think, you know, I can do this degree anywhere. I might as well go there. So while it doesn't directly collate to money, it does collate to like people going there to joining the team, in my opinion.
And just off the back of that, so I know a couple of guys that have already before university played GB, gone to Europe, played well, and have come back and they've applied for scholarships and they're getting turned down. And then before you know it, another guy that's played in Europe or America has been given a scholarship. What's your thoughts there? Do you feel like that's a bit harsh that some of our own homegrown talent should be getting scholarships, especially if they've gone through the sort of same processes as guys that are getting them?
Yeah, definitely. I can't see any reason why they shouldn't. I've not personally heard of any situations like that, but I'm sure there are guys that are out there. I think like going to Europe's quite a big thing now as well. So like you can really progress like from going out there. But then this turns into a wider conversation of like, what is our standard in this country? And I mean, you can have a whole debate on that like in itself. I think that the university standard of performance like has got better, got way better. I mean, if we're talking like 10 years ago, there was very few elite teams. There was even very few teams that were organised past 3 or 4 coaches and 20 players. So now we're seeing a lot more funding in it, a lot more growth of it. I mean, even looking at when I came in at 2010, 2011, I think there was 54 universities that had a football team, or maybe less. Now there's something like 90. There's over 90. Like it's double. It's almost doubled in
I think I have to agree and disagree with you on there, because you're right. The standard has increased, but I feel like the standard of the good teams have increased, and some of the teams with budgets has increased. Whereas the lower end of the university spectrum, the football there is not great at all. So it's a weird one, because some of them actually want to participate, but some of them actually want to compete as well. But it's hard to compete, especially if you're a university in London, and everyone that wants to go university in London saying, I might go UEL because that's a sports university, or Imperial or KCL because I know that they're good at American football. So the sort of the bottom of the ladder gets left, and they continue to deteriorate.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, Div 2 football is tough.
Yeah.
But you've also got to look at this, like who is coaching at that level?
Yeah.
Who, what sort of level are they trained at? If you look at any other sport, like obviously I've been massively focusing on football with like the links to Fulham and all of that kind of stuff. But just it's really opened my eyes to seeing what level coaches are at and are continually, like we talk about CPD, continuous development, right? But people I feel in Britball sort of go, I've got my level 1, I've worked under this coach, I'm good. And then they're like 6-7 years in, like, well, what have you done since then? Have you tried to progress? Have you like even shadowing other coaches? I'm at the point now where I've got I think I've got 3 coaches now that are shadowing me from different clubs. Just like at the moment I'm doing loads of Zoom calls with them, and I'm just for nothing, I'm just trying to raise their game. They're from different clubs around the country. And that's just because, like, if I feel I know something, I want to pass that on to you. But seek these people out is what I'm saying. Like, if you're a young coach and you don't know too much, ask someone, and they're going to try and help you. So that will raise that bottom level up, because then everyone will be a lot more qualified.
So I got a lot of stick for saying that the level of coaching in university isn't that great. So is this you potentially saying that you almost agree, but there's ways in which those coaches can improve themselves?
I think I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to be Switzerland right now. I'm going to stay neutral. What I'm going to say is that there are some very, very good university coaches out there. Very good coaches. And there are some very, very bad ones as well. I feel like the very bad ones, if they know that they're very bad, they should get out. If they don't know that they're very bad, they should be helped. Like there is ways to better this situation. I'm not gonna go down the route of BAFA level 1 qualifications and all this stuff, but also like a lot of it is knowledge. Like get up your knowledge outside of qualification, and work within your teams. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm not going down that route.
I think before we do wrap up, I just got a couple questions as well. And it all to do with like your coaching experience and how you found if one helped the other. So firstly, you started at Greenwich, and then you moved to Surrey. Do you feel what you experienced and your 2 years at Greenwich prepared you for your step up to Surrey, where you had quite a good stint? And secondly, I'm going to go back to the favourite question. I want a high and a low of your coaching career. Okay.
The first part. So Greenwich was fantastic because the guys that were there really wanted to be there. They loved football. It was tough because the inner workings of the university and the sports teams were quite disconnected and all of that. So we had all the usual stuff that everyone's been through. So that was tough. So coming into Surrey, that was a breath of fresh air because it was like everyone's organised, everyone's on the same page. They outlined from the start that they want to be performance team. So that was like we knew exactly where we sat. Me and another guy interviewed for the head coach role. They liked both of us. They got us on the phone, and I said, like, why don't we just come in together? You be the OC and I'd be the head coach. We had a great DC that was already there. Shout out to Luke. So we set the tone early in that staff, and then brought on some fantastic coaches to coach. So it was a completely different experience from struggling and like, you know, having 4 guys on the field. Like, shout out to the Greenwich guys because they were dedicated.
Yeah.
They were turning up for, you know, it's sideways rain and 50-point losses.
Know the feeling.
But they were still coming. So, yeah, completely different experiences. And it did prepare me. It prepared me because I knew how to deal with all of that lower level stuff. But then it also meant I could progress and like do what I needed to do, which was coach. Second part,
I bet you got loads.
Favorite. I mean, best moment like on field, I'd say, was getting to the Southern Conference Finals in 2015. It was 2015, 2016 season, I think. We basically ran the table. And Swansea ran the table as well, and we went down to their place, and the final itself went horribly wrong, and they won by a big margin. But just the journey of that team, like being undefeated, the coaching stuff that we had at that point as well, and also just putting your all into it. Like, shout out to every Uniball coach that puts so much effort behind the scenes. I gave up so much of my personal life that year to just, I was on the phone to my coordinators like almost daily.
Wow.
We had meetings. It was like a full-time job.
Yeah, a lot goes into it, man.
And it was so much that went into it. And I remember also like it was bittersweet because it was like we got to the final and we achieved loads. But then that loss was the hardest loss I've ever taken in my entire life. I took months to get over that because we should have won. So it was like, it was a sweet thing as well. But overall, I'd say as well, like just what you make with the players, the memories that you make, like the friendships that you make with coaches, like that's what it's all about is people, you know, like, just there's been so many guys that I've just, you know, got to know and they've just turned out to be like really, really good people that are still in my life. So
What do you say to the people out there that are like, oh, Uniball's trash?
Well, it's a general statement. Like I never look at things as general. Like you can see from the way I've been answering these questions, like you got to break it down because like, you can look at a bottom level Div 2 team on a muddy field in February with like sideways rain and like 4 coaches on each sideline and like 3 of them don't know what they're doing. Then that's going to be rubbish. That's going to be trash, like whatever way you want to put it. But to say Uniball and 90 teams and like, you know, hundreds of coaches and performance players, performance athletes is trash is the exact opposite. I'd argue the other way. There's certain teams at the elite level. I mean, look at UWE last year. Like that was ridiculous. Like that was a good standard of football. Shout out to Dan and Ben down there as well for getting that done.
Do you think they would have won it all?
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I do personally, but you know, I haven't been keeping my eye as much on the northern side of it as well. So you know, probably going to catch a lot of heat from those guys up there. But I mean, personal opinion, But I don't think you can term anything as trash. That's like saying, you know, is Baffa like Division 2 trash? Well,
we've spoken. You know.
But it's all football at the end of the day. So
cheeky one, Bucks champions versus the Brit Bowl champions. Who's your money on?
100% Brit Bowl champions. If you're talking about Warriors, like all the way Warriors. Warriors are far and away the best team in the UK. But also look at what goes into that. Like look at what the setup that they have. Look at all the coaching stuff that they have. Like it's easy to know why they're always continually on top. And I was looking forward to seeing them in Europe as well. That was going to be a big thing.
Look,
so
how many years away do you think the next team are to catching the Warriors?
It goes up and down every year, doesn't it? I mean,
does,
Tamworth are always getting closer. We never really know about Blitz, although like I love the Warriors Blitz rivalry as well. I think that's massive for London. The gap is still going to be there because they're just so far and away like the best team with the best setup and the best coaching staff and the best players and all the buy-in that comes with it. I'm actually like slightly more interested in them competing in Europe and whether the gap is where the gap is to like certain countries, you know, not talking necessarily about Germany and Austria, but like, you know,
the France,
the France's, the Netherlands, all these countries.
But yeah, I mean, good way to end it. On that note, we've got to wrap up. Big thank you to Coach Andy for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a
much
pleasure.
appreciated. Guys, there's loads more episodes for you to tune into. I think 75 plus now. So if you haven't watched any of those, please do go back and have a watch.
Sorry, before you finish, thank you very much, Coach Andy, for this brilliant gift. We'll go down a treat. We
will enjoy it.
we will enjoy it. Yeah, thank you
X
very
the
much.
nose on everything, all socials, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.